Yeah, so overall, there we have it. It's pretty much done everything on the chassis. One thing I am going to do though, on the truck itself, I need to bleed the brakes, the rear brakes, because I did have the lines and the calipers disconnected. Just to make sure we don't have any air in the lines, I am going to bleed the brakes. So for now, everything on here is finally done and we are good to go on this. Everything's fully tightened down with Loctite and all that good stuff. So now we can finally move on to the bed. We're going to cut out the notch or the hole for the notch on the bed, and then possibly cut the wheel wells if it doesn't clear. More than likely it's not going to, so we will have to cut into that. The only issue I see with this is I do believe this inside of it is plastic. So I don't know what kind of trouble that's going to give us, but that will be for tomorrow. Today is a Saturday, got off of work kind of early-ish, got home at 11. It's now 4 o'clock, but today is our one day that we got to do our house stuff, groceries and all that. So I will do the bed tomorrow morning, which for you guys, it'll be in a few seconds. All right, what is going on, guys? We are back on another sunny and humid Texas day, and we are about to start cutting the bed for the notch. But what I'm gonna do is, because Luis did say that he has some 24s that he's gonna put on his truck, we want to make sure that we have enough clearance for him on the bed, so we make sure he doesn't have any rubbing issues when he slaps the 24s on. So we're going to take these little 18s off. I believe they're 18s or 17s. They are 16s actually. So we're going to take these little bitty wheels off, and for the time being we are going to put my old Trailblazer SS22s on and slap those on, and then we'll use that as a mock-up for the bed and use it to cut the wheel wells. And when all I'll have to do is just make it just a little bit bigger so he will clear his 24s. So we're gonna do that. I'm gonna go ahead and slap on the 24s on the rear only, and then we'll actually do a comparison and see how high the rear end now actually goes with some 22s on it. So with the 16s, when it's fully aired up, the hitch is 4.5 inches off the ground. So let's go ahead and slap these 22s on and see how much lift we can get with some bigger wheels on here. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, well, there we have it. We're up and off the ground, and see if I can do this with one hand. With the 22s that I have on here now, the hitch is now 6 3/4 from the pavement. So from the 16s going up to 22s, we went up 2 1/4 inch. So he'll probably go up maybe, I would say maybe another 1/2 inch, depending on his tire size. Whatever he gets on there, he may go up another 1/2 inch of clearance with the 24s that he has. So right there, we're good. I'm going to go ahead and begin the process of moving the bed out from the wall, bringing it over here, and getting ready to notch that out so we can then test fit it. I'm going to use the points of where it bolts to, kind of to like rough estimate where I need to cut the bed. So for example, like this hole, I'm gonna have to measure like a certain amount of distance to like right here to clear the back brackets, and over here I want to make it close enough to where we don't have any issues getting it too close right here to the harness, the brake line, and this vent tube for the differential. So let me make up my measurements. I'll mark it out on the bed, bring the bed out, and then we'll start getting ready to cut that out. So let me go get everything in position. We'll put this over here, get you guys a quick little time lapse, and we will be ready to start making some measurements and cuts. right, I got my first initial cut started. I was gonna try to remove this little heat shield, but those bolts are completely seized in there. I tried to take them off with my Torx and I broke my Torx. So what I will be doing is grinding the bolts down, and we will be completely taking that shield off. Once that shield is off, I'll be removing the harness to get it out of the way so we don't cut it. And once that is done, we will begin doing our nice little slicing and dicing. The only thing is I'm going to pull it back from the wall because I do still have his rubber floor mat in the back of the truck, or in the bed, which technically we won't be able to use anymore because he has a step notch in it now, unless we cut the floor mat as well. But I will ask him before I do that. So let me go ahead and get that harness out of the way, and we will be closing the door and begin the slicing. Alright, well, that was a little bit more of a pain in the ass than it should have been. I had a really hard time trying to get these inner, or it technically would be the outer fender well. Pretty much what I had to do. I thought loosening just these and these, it would have slipped out, but with it being such a hard plastic, they were not bending really easy. So I had to loosen up these bolts, which I had to put some penetrating fluid on it because they were pretty seized up. One of them almost started to break on me up here, but luckily it didn't. So we're good there. Got both of them out. I had to cut the camera off because I didn't know how long it was going to take me. I didn't want to make a huge time lapse of that. So okay, now we're to the point where I can start cutting out this intersection of the wheel well. It's really tough to do when there's not much room in there, especially with a angle grinder, because that's pretty much all I have. I guess first I'm going to go ahead and start cutting out that main big piece, and then we'll start marking the nice little angle for the bigger wheels. All right, well, I got the majority of the inner tub cut out. Now that was just pretty much like a rough cut, and right now I just went over and kind of drew like another line on it, and that's where my new cut line is going to be. And I'm bringing it up a little bit more because that's where this little brace is going to be at, and more than likely I'm going to have to cut into that if the wheels doesn't clear. But for now I'm going to go ahead and just do that one cut. I know that's going to be at least like the highest I could go right now safely, because if not, if we go a little bit higher, then we're going to get into the fiberglass, and he might not even be able to fit his 24s on there. So I'm going to go as high as I can without taking out too much of the structural piece out, that brace. So I'm going to do my final cut right there. I'm going to grind some of these edges down to get some of the sharp edges off, and then I'll flip it down and we'll be ready to finally set it on the truck itself. So let me go ahead and get these cut out, grind it down, and then I'll pick it back up right before I put it on. All right, guys, well, there it is, all mounted up on the engine hoist. We're about to slap it on. That was about the biggest ordeal ever. I literally probably spent like 30 minutes just trying to set it up on the engine hoist, trying to get it down, and trying to get it level to where I can put it on the truck evenly. I am drenched in sweat. I had the door closed because I had the top of the bed was almost rubbing the door, so I can flip it back over. But it's in position. I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to set it in. The one thing I did see we're gonna have to reroute is the wires for the side marker lights right here, because it did go along where the bed was for the on the wheel well. So I'm gonna have to set that up differently now. May have to extend the wires. So let me go ahead and set up my camera. I'm gonna set it up, set the bed on, and after I set it on, and if we have no issues, I am gonna take a much needed water break because it is hot today and I'm tired. That was a lot of cutting and grinding in this heat. So here we go. Let's go ahead and set this bed on, see how it looks. All right, guys, well, there we have it. Everything's pretty much good and clear. However, the inside of the bed is still kind of close to the tire. Even with my 22s, I'm afraid it's going to be too close for his 24s. He did say he was going to get some pretty small tires on it, but still, I'm just going to cut it a little bit more all the way along to that line. I aired it out all the way and then kind of used the tire as a profile to kind of curve it out. So that's the last thing we got to do on the bed as far as cutting, is cutting that little area out a little bit more just to be safe and clear the wheels. So once we get that done, I'm going to go ahead and try to get that cut tonight, just so I'm pretty much done with all the cutting and grinding. But that's going to be pretty much it. Everything is almost done on the truck. I am going to still leave the tailgate handle till the very end because I know Luis is anxious to pick this up. So that might be one thing that we could leave without and not do the tailgate handle. But as far as everything else on the truck, probably the only thing I will have to do is extend these wires for the side marker lamps. If they even work. I can't recall if they do. But regardless, I will be extending those wires at least so he can still use them if he wants to. So gonna go ahead and close the door again, put myself back in my little sauna. Since the sun always sets on this side in front of the garage, it always heats up the garage in the afternoons pretty good. So gonna set up my porta-cool. We're gonna finish doing the little cuts and grinds right there, and we should call it a day today. And it's about time for me to get some dinner, get the kids dinner, and just take off some time because I've been in here pretty much all day. So let me go ahead and get to do my grinding real quick, and I'll pick it back up here in a few seconds. All right, so now we are cut. I cut it a little bit farther up. We should be good there. I hope we're pretty good. It's pretty close. Like I mentioned before, he is going to be 24s, but on lower, smaller profile tires. So I'm hoping that this will be enough. The reason I couldn't cut it anymore is because on the side, if you remember, whenever I had it standing up, there's a brace that goes along the top of the bed, along through there. So it's like a double layer right in there. And that is really difficult to cut through, especially since, hold on, my dog's running away. What you running away for? But yeah, like I said, the double layer in there, that's just the only difficult part. So I don't have the specialty tools, anything that I could use to cut in there a little bit better, because all I'm using is the angle grinder. There you go again. I'm gonna call it a day. This guy is really hot because he's been out here with me all day, and so have I. I am drenched in sweat. So we're gonna go ahead inside. I'm probably gonna cut the video here. All right, guys. Well, today was another day, another productive day. Nothing too fancy, so I didn't actually record, but all I did was cut some more metal out of the wheel well so we can clear easier the 24s that Luis is going to put on here. Because from the 22s, his 24s were going to be a lot bigger, even though it's on low pros, and then he's going to take off the hitch, so it would have ended up dropping up even more. So I did end up having to cut that brace that was in there. If you guys recall before, there's a brace that goes along the bed, but we ended up cutting that. It didn't give me too much trouble. Big difference from yesterday afternoon while I was working. I was getting frustrated. I didn't even want to get into cutting anymore. But today, after a full day of work and being distracted, overthinking it, now I was able to cut it up, and we will now be able to clear, hopefully with no issues, his 24s. So got that done. I went ahead and routed the wires for his side marker lamps. I actually didn't have to extend them. They actually were longer than I expected. So I did zip tie them up to the nuts so it's up and out of the way from the differential whenever he airs out. All the lamps work except for one. For some reason, I don't know if I think I broke that one whenever I was trying to twist it onto the marker lamp, the little bulb. I think the little two nubs on there broke off, so I couldn't put that one single bulb in. But the bed is bolted down. All the lights are hooked up. Everything works, even that little third brake light right there, or the running light. Put his factory wheels or his factory 16s back on there, and we are good to go on the truck. So this is finally officially done. Right now, I'm actually in the process of cleaning up a little bit in here and throwing away some of the old metal. Gonna go dump that away at my job where I work. So we'll make some more room in here. And once I clean in here, then tomorrow we'll be able to officially start the tailgate handle swap to the inside. So what I'm actually going to end up doing, so this was from Johnny's red extended cab. This came with the kit for his tailgate handle, to swap it to the inside. But as you guys recall, he ended up doing a Pro Touring tailgate skin. So I really didn't have a use for this. But what we're actually going to do is use this as a template, because as you can see, pretty much covers the hole almost perfect, not exactly perfect, but I will use this as a starting template. Cut a piece out of my sheet metal that I have laying down over there next to my toolbox, and then shave that down to kind of match better on the opening right there. Flush mount it, weld it, and body work it. So that shouldn't give us, hopefully, too much trouble. But yeah, that will be for tomorrow. But luckily I have this little template to kind of give me a good rough start. So that will be it for tomorrow. And then we will officially be done with the single cab build. I'll cut now to the next day when we finally begin the tailgate handle conversion. All right, we got the hole marked out for the inside of the handle. Pretty much we're just gonna try to line it up with the old bolt holes, which would be right there. And then we just gotta kind of mark it off. At first I actually did it right here, which isn't right because the holes over here don't line up. It's supposed to be in these. So if we go back down to that second one, you can see now those line up. So we're pretty good right there. I think the only thing I have to do is maybe extend that lower line farther down, and then I'm gonna do my cut over here on that first initial line that I did at first. So we got our rough estimated cut, so let's go ahead and do that. And then, like I said, I'll probably cut the bottom down just a little bit more. So I'm gonna mark that and then we'll get ready to cut. We got the hole cut out, all nice and prepped. Drill the holes for where we're gonna mount it. Now, there's several different ways you can do this to mount it. First way, and in my opinion, probably the best way, is to use rivets, because these will be the most secure and will not work its way out over time. The second way I've seen people do is just use like regular sheet metal screws, but they're about the size of a bolt, almost like a little 10 millimeter. Don't know if I have one around here. For example, let's just say like this, but on the end of it, it's like a tap, almost like a drill bit. And those bolts, you can drill through the sheet metal to bolt it down. But those will actually work its way loose over time, because since it starts to rust, if you don't put any primer to keep the panel from rusting, those bolts will work its way out, because the metal will start to deteriorate and the vibrations will actually also make it work its way out. And then the third way is probably the second best way to do it, is to put in what they call a nutsert. It's pretty much like a rivet, but what you're putting in there is a thread to where you can actually bolt actual bolt through, just like a regular bolt, just like what I had a second ago, pretty much like this. So you would just pretty much drill a bigger hole, use a rivet gun, kind of like what I'm about to use. It's probably a little bit different style. It's not as big as this. The one that I've used is pretty small. But anyways, it's like almost like a rivet. It pinches the metal and it's got grooves in it to where it doesn't twist, so that helps it a lot. And then you can actually use a bolt, and to be extra secure, you can use a lock washer on it if you prefer. So, but since I don't have any of those tools, what I will be using is some rivets. So I'm gonna go ahead and bolt the handle to the bracket first, get that done, put the cables, the rods onto the handle, make sure it works fine, latch it and unlatch it. And then once that is done, then we will be ready now to flip it over and start beginning to patch the hole on the outside. So let me go ahead and get this thing bolted and riveted in, and then we'll go ahead and start making our first welds and cuts. Both sides, already tested it. It worked just fine. There you go. There you go. Latched, and you'll hear it pop. There you go. Alright, works just fine. I had to grind this one rivet down because the little piece broke off like above the head of the rivet. So just grinded that down, but there you go. handle's already on the inside, ready to go. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna go ahead and first need to take this off because I'm gonna be grinding and welding pretty close to it, and then we'll start shaving down the filler piece to cover the hole, which is almost perfect. I'm gonna just have to shave like pretty much the corners of it to match the curvature. All right, so back on the time lapse. All right, so I think I got it pretty close right there. Pretty much what I'm doing is making this piece smaller than the opening of this, so it sinks down below that little ridge right there. If you can see, I'm trying to keep it right under that. So when you slide it in, it's going to be right below the surface. So once we weld it all the way around and we grind it down, this piece will actually be level, if not close to being level with the rest of the tailgate, and it will make it a whole lot easier to do the body work on this thing. So I think I got it pretty close. I think I'm ready to start pulling out my welder and getting ready to grind. However, I do need to grind a spot to clamp my ground to for my welder. So I'm gonna find somewhere to do that, and then we'll get ready to start welding that plate in. So let's go ahead and get started. Actually, one last thing before I start welding on this. Now, if you're going to try to attempt this on yourself, whenever you go to weld it, just take your time welding and go to cross weld it. Just one little tack, move on to the next side, one little tack, and just work your way around and take your time. This is going to probably take me about 30 minutes because what you do not want to do is overheat the panel. Overheating the panel will cause it what's called oil canning, which when you push it, it'll pop, and then you let it go and it'll pop out, and it'll make your metal all distorted and wavy. So when you go to do this, take your time, slow down. You're not in any rush. So doing this will save you a lot of time whenever you go to do your body work, or if you have to go back and do metal work. It would make it a whole lot easier. So again, take your time and let's go ahead and get started welding. All right, guys. Well, we are officially done with the tailgate. Now, I know this is a sudden jump from what you guys last saw, but I had a little mishap. The metal actually did warp on me, and I did create a huge low spot right under where the patch was for the handle. I don't know why. I literally took about an hour and 30 minutes, an hour and 45 minutes just to keep doing the one each individual weld and letting it cool down and then keep welding it. So I don't know what I did there by mistake, but anyways, what happened was once I finished welding it, I actually took it to work with me, and I used my dent puller at work to pull and work the dent back out. And I went ahead and did the body work at work. and used again the 1K primer to primer the bodywork. So that saved me a lot of time, because here doing it at home by hand would have taken me forever to do the bodywork. So I was able to do it in a few minutes, doing the sanding and go ahead and shooting the primer on. So luckily I was able to fix it. I body worked it, primed it, and now I'm ready to slap the little spoiler back on the top. The handle is already on the inside, and we are officially done with the tailgate, and we will slap this on tomorrow. Don't have time to do it today. I got a bunch of stuff I got to do, run some errands, but you will cut to the scene here in a few seconds to me putting it on the truck. Let's go ahead and skip to the next day right now. All right, guys, well, that's going to do it for this video. This project is done. Thanks again to Luis for bringing it all the way down from Dallas, Texas to Tomball, Texas for me to work on for him, and for trusting me with his build. So I don't know what else I'm going to be working on just yet, but I do have a video coming up for the Yukon where I did some maintenance on it before I went on vacation. So until then, you guys will see that video on next Sunday. So just be on the lookout for the next video I upload. Leave a comment, like, comment, subscribe, share the videos, and I will see you guys on the next one.